Hello everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of the LabZtorm Baracade. This audio podcast is part of the Barnacle and Storm. This audio podcast as part of the Barnacle and Storm and Bostics. This audio podcast as part of the Shipmo Squad, and this audio podcast as part of a Storm and Bostics production. So, in following an audio podcast in this episode, looking at the sort of methodology aspects of the methodology and in around a little bit around the in around aspects aligned to health literacy. In this audio podcast, there'll be a look at sort of basis in around the collaborative workshops, So in on in on the collaborative workshops, it was where there was initial sort of a workshop that kicked off with a formal introduction aimed at sort of in seeing an seeing that young people could interact by providing or offering a snapshot of in around where a snapshot was shared in around the workshop in few that sort of looked at sort of the aims sort of looked at sort of overall objectives of the workshop, and where y- young people could interact. This was as part of the collaborative workshop. This was referred to as what was known as a sort of a sort of a sort of a wet a sort of a wet sort of workshop, where it was sort of where it was sort of a piloted 1 day workshop. The wet workshop was sort of an out of the city experience, which was co developed a way to provide or offer adventure and opportunity for participants to see outside. The initial plan was as follows, wherein in the first week it was to see a sense of observe and interact. In week two, it was looking at aspects around healthcare and well-being. In week three, it was around looking at around aspects of life, aspects of life on the land, life on the land in line to around growing crops, growing crops, etc. And week four was actually in around the hip hop element, sort of more in around the hip hop element, looking at enterprise and aspects of where hip hop were aligned to hip hop, when hip hop was aligned to aspects of economic growth and enterprise. Um, it was then decided to additionally see a sense of collaboration with with where the hip hop gardens team, for example, had collaborated further or involved further collaborations, which were from teams team was teams or collaboration from an international basis, to headline the event, and present a day and sorry present a day of film exclusively showing a sort of a critically acclaimed documentary on environmental on and around environmental racism, from a global South perspective, and where there was discussions in around aspects pertaining to aspects in around and pertaining to hip hop, or aspects of in around aspects already aligned to permaculture and networking. And the workshops brought together marginalized communities that may have otherwise not been involved in activities that interlink sort of learning with the use of hip hop within the surrounding community. The workshops were then pitched at particular fundraisers so that collaborators could interlink with local established businesses, as well as those who may wish to sell and display creative expressions on the day on the different days of and around the workshops. The contributions to support workshops were from differing perspectives. So, for example, contributions from photographers and those contributing and donate and those who are contributing in aspects of around different in around different prizes for different in around different prizes based on a raffle as part of a raffle element, and also those offering skills to assist during the day, and sponsors that made financial contributions to the workshops. In addition, the collaborations or the collaborators had a local so in addition the collaborators had had a had a had a free had been offered free advertising in a local gig guide magazine for and in around the workshops, and helped to wherein that helped to expand the reach and attention through the publication or through aspects of that advertising. This also supported reaching a broader demographic across culture, music and or hip hop, and in around locality. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast is part of the LabZtorm Baracade. This audio podcast is part of the Barnacle and Storm and Bostics. This audio podcast is part of the Shipmo Squad. This audio podcast is part of a Storm and Bostics production.